everybody, welcome back to Tempest Books. I'm Rebecca and today we are doing a quick February wrap-up. So I read 4 books in February. You'll be able to find reviews on all of them in my channel if you want to go in a little bit deeper. They're either up now or they should be up soon. With the buddy read that I did in February, which is Ararat by Christopher Golden. This was a 4-star book for me. I did quite like it. There were some annoyances in it, so it was a bit slow paced. There was very much a is it mythical? Is it human? Can we, what are we actually looking at here that went on a little bit longer than I liked? But the rest of it was pretty good. I learnt some things, and it's always nice to go into a little bit of biblical mythology every now and then. I've got a few of those on my shelves, but this one was pretty good. In this book, we follow Miriam and Adam, who are essentially adventurers who make their living by documenting what they do. They are leading a group into the newly found cave on Mount Ararat that is believed to hold Noah's Ark. And the story follows what we are never quite sure is either a monster or a human murderer, but eventually lots and lots of people die and it's a bit gory, and we thankfully get an actual answer in the end. If we hadn't gotten that, if it had been left up in the air, was it a monster, was it a man, I'd have turfed this book out the window. I would have been so annoyed, but we got a good answer and I'm happy with that. It turns out that this is actually the first book in a series. We'll actually follow one of the characters through several more of these adventures, and seeing as how we got our answer in the end of this book, I'll actually be interested to have a look at the rest in the series. So the very first book I actually finished in February was the debut novel by Todd Knight called The Posh Prepper. Now this one was my best rated book for the whole month. It's actually probably one of my favorite books that I've read for a while now. So I got 4.75 stars. It was so close to a 5-star book. And it follows our main character Nick, who is a preparedness expert because the world is absolutely shocking. It's not too far, it's like 11 years from now in the very near future. And follow preparedness expert Nick, who basically makes up doomsday plans for the rich and famous. So when the world ends, because they know it's going to, because seriously the world has gone down the shit chute of this thing. So the world's gonna end, everyone knows it, they're not sure how, and so they employ this guy to basically make sure that when everything goes to pot, they'll be safe. They'll be in some random country in a beautifully built bunker or ranch, and they'll be able to live out the next 20 years in perfect contentment because of his plans and the backup plans on those plans and the backup plans on those ones. So he leaves nothing to chance, and everything will always go perfect with all his plans until shit actually hits the fan and his own plan doesn't work very well. This book follows him and his navigation of actual people, because he's not real fond of the actual people. It's his journey to get to his retirement ranch in New Zealand. But yes, lots of things hold him up, lots of people hold him up, and all of a sudden he's got a group and a family, and it's like, this wasn't supposed to happen, man. The other amazing thing about this book was how the apocalypse that goes on, the virus-starved apocalypse in this book, how it was planned, how it was, executed, the amazing way that the bad guys performed exactly what it was that they wanted. I really found myself connecting with the bad guy, going, oh, you make sense. No, you're not supposed to make sense. You're a bad guy, man. I think I need to think about this a bit more. But this book definitely kept me on the edge of my seat for ages. It's very much a character-driven book, character-centered, and it's all about their and his growth and the dynamics of the people. Normally that's not my cup of tea. I just like my apocalypse in the apocalypse books, and you don't actually see a lot of apocalypse in this book, and yet I still loved it, which says a lot for me. This book I really highly recommend. It is the first in a trilogy. I believe that the second book is coming out towards the end of this year, and frankly I can't wait for it. As soon as I can get my grubby little hands on it, I will be reading it. So yes, this one, totally recommend this one. This one was a 4.75 in my book, and it was my favorite read of the year so far. Third book I finished in February is The Return Man by V.M. Zito. Now this book got a 3.5 stars from me. I didn't quite gel with a couple of fairly large parts of it, which is why it didn't score as highly, but it was still a reasonably good book. I did like it. In this book, we follow a man who essentially hunts zombies for people. The return man, Henry Marco, is trapped on the wrong side of the wall. So America has been almost cut in half. We have the safe states on one side and the zombie states on the other. If you live in the safe states, then you are there permanently. And if you live in the zombie states, you can never join the safe states because you ran out of time. You didn't get there by the date that the government said you had to. And so poor old Henry is stuck on the wrong side of the wall. He's searching for someone, and during that time he uses the things he's figured out with his neuroscience brain, because he was a neuroscientist before the zombies came, to figure out the fact that they retain something of their human mind. They're not sure what or how, but they obviously do, because in their zombie form they keep going back to their homes or what was extremely important to them. And that's all the way down to the fact that a person was a dedicated runner, and so every morning you can see the zombie walk around the block a couple times, because the human that they used to be, their life revolved around running. They loved running. So it's really, really random in that regard, but Henry takes some satisfaction in the fact that he's helping people on the other side of the wall to know that their loved ones are at peace, essentially, which is what Henry does. He hunts them down based on what their family gives him, and he puts them to rest. He returns them to their properly dead state. Book, we follow Henry when he is given a job by what is left of the government. He has to go to where the zombie apocalypse started, and he has to find out the information from the people that are there, if they're dead, if they're alive. Does he take the information from their corpses? You know, is it in the house? It's an adventure, essentially, of how one man could try and maybe save the world. Although it's really just maybe save America, because funnily enough, the rest of the world's fine. It's America that's zombified, and that's it. But I do have a deeper look at the book in another video on my channel, so check that if you like. And our final read for the month was The Silence by Tim LeBron. Now, I actually quite liked this book. This was a 4.5 star book for me. It was really excellent. I went into it though with a question that I wanted answered, because it kind of gives us a promise in the blurb, and it doesn't deliver. And that promise that was really, really important to me. I really wanted to know the answer, kind of personally important even. And it didn't give me an answer. So in that, I was really, really disappointed. I am doing a much deeper dive into this book on my channel. The video will be up soon. But apart from the problem that I had with it, it was a really, really good book. I loved the way that we combined monsters and apocalypse. So this book follows a young teenager who is profoundly deaf and her family when a monster apocalypse starts, essentially. Someone chose the wrong cave and then dug through the wrong wall in that cave and unleashed monsters. They unleashed something that had been evolving in that cave all by itself for over 10 million years. And so when these monsters emerge, they're blind, they're pale, they hunt by sound, and they are coming for you. Now, we watch the progression of these monsters just sweep across the world, which was very fun. I liked that. The other really interesting thing about this book was the kind of integration of social media. So the girl we follow, Ali, who is profoundly deaf, she carries with her a tablet, but she uses it to keep track of everything and essentially creates what she calls a scrapbook that gathers together everything she finds on the internet and tracks what's going on. She finds out the smallest pieces of information that could help her family survive. She gathers together all the various trends that happen throughout the internet, the trending hashtags and the stories that are posted frequently on Facebook, and just all sorts of different social media and platforms that are really commonly used on the internet. She is constantly going through them all and gathering all the information. And it was a really awesome view on the internet in kind of a new way. So it's positive application in a circumstance that is essentially an apocalypse. Things I weren't overly as fond with in the book is the odd change that we constantly go through. So half the book, or more than half the book, is in first person view from Ali's point of view. So it's I, we, me, and then all of a sudden, every now and then in a new chapter, or even halfway through a chapter, we'll suddenly be looking through her father's eyes in a third person POV. And it was a bit jarring to see that happening, but I did get used to it. the main thing that I had a problem with was the father's POV was constantly emotionally based. He would just suddenly randomly go on to a tangent about how the intimate relationship he had with his wife had degraded over the last few years, or the fact that he wasn't overly fond of his mother-in-law, but he also respected her strength. And just these random interludes of emotional basis that seemed completely random and really didn't fit in what was going on. So I had a little bit of trouble with that. It took me out of the apocalypse that was happening. But other than that, it was a really good book. Like I said, 4.5 stars, and I would definitely recommend it to someone who likes the apocalypse, who likes monsters. Really interesting way to meld the two sorts of books into one. It was done really well. I liked the science behind the animals, although every now and then I'd go, I feel like that doesn't quite work, but okay, suspend a bit of belief, considering we're talking about blind cave monsters causing the apocalypse. You know, you suspend your belief anyway, but hey. So I will have a much deeper look at this book on my channel soon. That one will be a full spoilers video, and I'll do a small video that is a non-spoiler review for people who just want to know about the book and not the issue I had with it. Okay guys, that's it. That's our February wrap up. 4 books for February. Let me know if you've read any of them. Let me know what you thought about them, and I'll see you next time. Bye.